Sylvester Stallone walks into a casting office in Century City when the director looks up from his coffee, glances at Stallone's headshot, and says without emotion, "You have 7 minutes to make me care about a loser." What happens in those 7 minutes doesn't just get Stallone the part, it becomes the most legendary cold read in Hollywood history, a performance so raw and unexpected that the casting director stops the audition halfway through, not because it's bad, but because he can't handle what he's witnessing. This is the story of how Sylvester Stallone turned an insult into an opportunity, turned 7 minutes into a career, and proved that sometimes the greatest performances happen when you have nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Los Angeles, California, February 1975, Wednesday afternoon, 3:17 p.m. The casting office sits on the 9th floor of a bland office building on Avenue of the Stars in Century City. Not glamorous, not impressive, just functional corporate space converted into audition rooms. Gray carpet, fluorescent lights, cheap furniture, that particular smell of anxiety that lives in places where dreams get evaluated and usually rejected. This is where hundreds of actors come every week, hoping for their break. Most leave with nothing except another story about almost making it. Sylvester Stallone is 28 years old, should be established by now, should have momentum, should be past the cattle call audition stage. Instead, he's here, waiting in a room full of actors who look more polished, more conventional, more like what Hollywood wants. Stallone is wearing jeans and a leather jacket because he doesn't own anything better. His hair is longer than casting directors prefer. His face carries that asymmetry from the forceps injury at birth. His speech has that slight slur that makes some people assume he's not intelligent. By Hollywood standards, by any conventional measure of leading man appearance, he doesn't belong here. But Stallone is desperate, hasn't booked a real job in months. The bit parts dried up, the background work stopped calling. His agent is losing faith, returning fewer calls, suggesting maybe Stallone should consider other options. Other options meaning quit, meaning accept that acting isn't going to happen, meaning get a real job and stop pretending. Stallone can't do that, won't do that. Because acting isn't just what he does, it's who he is. It's the only thing he's ever been good at, the only thing that makes sense. Everything else, the dead-end jobs, the poverty, the rejection, all of it is just noise between auditions. And this audition, for a small independent film about a washed-up boxer, might be his last real chance before the industry forgets he exists. The waiting room is full. 8 other actors. All of them look more right for the part than Stallone, more traditionally handsome, better dressed, more comfortable in this environment. They've been called back. They've read the script. They know what the director wants. Stallone doesn't have those advantages. His agent got him in at the last minute. A favor, a pity slot. The "we'll see him, but don't expect anything" slot. Stallone sits in a plastic chair that's too small, trying to make himself invisible, trying not to think about the fact that his bank account has $63 in it, that his rent is 3 weeks overdue, that his landlord threatened eviction yesterday, that he hasn't eaten anything except crackers and coffee today because he's saving money. Saving for what he doesn't know, just saving because spending means running out faster, and running out means it's over. The door opens. An assistant, young woman, bored expression, clipboard in hand, calls out, "Sylvester Stallone." The other actors look up. A few smirk. The name sounds ridiculous to them, too theatrical, too trying hard. Like someone pretending to be tougher than they are. Stallone stands, ignores the looks, walks to the door, The assistant doesn't make eye contact, just turns and walks down a hallway. Stallone follows. They reach another door. The assistant knocks once, opens it, says flatly, "Sylvester Stallone," then walks away. No encouragement, no good luck, just another body being processed through the system. Stallone walks into the room. It's small, a desk, 2 chairs, a camera on a tripod in the corner, red light blinking, already recording. Behind the desk sits a man, late 40s, wearing an expensive sweater and designer glasses, drinking coffee from a mug that says "Director" in bold letters. His name is Martin Kesselbaum. Worked on 3 independent films. 2 flopped, 1 broke even. He's under pressure to make this 4th one work, or his career is finished, which means he's irritable, impatient, and in no mood for wasting time on actors who aren't ready. Martin doesn't stand, doesn't extend his hand, just gestures vaguely at the empty chair across from him. Stallone sits. The chair is lower than Martin's. Deliberate power dynamic. Makes the actor look up, makes them feel smaller. Classic intimidation technique. Martin picks up Stallone's headshot, studies it. His lip curls slightly. Not quite a sneer, just barely concealed disappointment. He's seen 100 headshots today. They all blend together. Stallone stands out, but not in a good way. The asymmetry, the intensity, the face that doesn't photograph, like the faces Martin is used to working with. Martin sets the headshot down, looks at Stallone, really looks at him, evaluating, calculating, deciding how much time to waste before moving on to the next actor. Martin says, "You're here for the boxer role." Stallone nods. "Yes." Martin says, "Have you read the script?" Stallone says, "No. My agent just told me to come." Martin's eyebrows raise. Annoyance flickers across his face. He doesn't like actors who show up unprepared. Shows disrespect. Shows they don't care enough to do the work. Martin says, "So you don't know anything about the character?" Stallone says, "I know he's a boxer. I know he's struggling. That's enough." Martin laughs. Short. Sharp. Not amused. "That's enough. You think you can just walk in here and wing it?" Stallone doesn't flinch. Keeps eye contact. Says calmly, "Yes." Something shifts in Martin's expression. Curiosity maybe, or annoyance, turning into a challenge. He leans back in his chair, crosses his arms, decides to test this cocky, unprepared actor, decides to humiliate him a little, put him in his place. Martin says, "Okay, here's the situation. Your character is a small-time boxer, never made it big, never will. He's 35 years old, past his prime, works as muscle for a loan shark, because fighting doesn't pay the bills anymore. He's a loser, a has-been, actually, and never was. He knows it, everyone knows it, and now he's talking to a woman he likes, trying to explain why she should give him a chance, even though he has nothing to offer except broken dreams and bad decisions." Martin leans forward, stares at Stallone, says with deliberate cruelty, "You have 7 minutes to make me care about a loser, starting now." The room goes silent. The camera records. The red light blinks. 7 minutes. 420 seconds to prove he belongs here. To prove he's not just another desperate actor. To prove Martin wrong about everything he's assuming. Most actors would panic, would ask for the script, would ask for context, would try to buy time, would make excuses. But Stallone doesn't do any of that. It's because Martin just handed him something valuable. Not the role, not the audition, the truth. Make me care about a loser. Stallone knows losers, has been called a loser, his entire life, by his father, by teachers, by casting directors, by everyone who looked at his face, and his background and his circumstances, and decided he wouldn't amount to anything. He's lived that word, carried it, fought against it, and now Martin wants him to make it human, make it sympathetic, make it matter. Stallone can do that, because he doesn't need to act, he just needs to remember. Stallone doesn't stand, doesn't move to the performance space, just stays in the low chair, looks down at his hands, rough hands, scarred knuckles, working hands, fighter's hands. He stays silent for 10 seconds, 15, 20. The silence becomes uncomfortable. Martin shifts in his seat, thinks maybe Stallone is frozen, thinks this was a mistake. Then Stallone starts talking, doesn't look at Martin, looks at his hands. His voice is quiet, not performing, just existing, just being. Stallone says, "You know what the worst part is? Not that I'm not good. I'm good. I can fight. I can take a punch. I can give one back. That's not the problem. The problem is I'm not great. And in this world, good doesn't matter. Good gets you local matches, and small purses, and a face that looks like it's been through a meat grinder. Good gets you to 35 years old, realizing you gave everything to something that gave you nothing back." Stallone's voice cracks slightly. Not manufactured emotion, real memory, bleeding through. He continues, "And now I'm standing here, looking at you, knowing what you see. You see the crooked nose, the scar tissue, the cheap jacket, the guy who works for a loan shark because fighting doesn't pay rent. You see a loser. And you're right. I am a loser. By every measure society uses, I failed, but here's what you don't see." Stallone looks up now, directly at Martin. His eyes are wet, not crying, just emotion too big to contain. "You don't see the mornings I got up at 5 a.m. to train when I had no fight scheduled. You don't see the times I got knocked down and got back up when staying down would have hurt less. You don't see the hope I carry around like a brick in my chest, this stupid, illogical hope that maybe if I just keep showing up, keep trying, keep believing, something will change. You don't see that I'm still here, after everything, after every reason to quit, I'm still here." Stallone's voice gets stronger now, not louder, stronger. "And you're beautiful, you're smart, you've got options, you could be with anyone, and I got nothing to offer you, except this broken down body, and this beaten up heart, and the promise that I will show up, every day, every single day. I'll show up for you, the way I showed up for every fight I ever had, because showing up is the only thing I'm actually great at. Not good, great. I'm the greatest show-upper you'll ever meet, and maybe that's not enough, probably isn't, but it's all I got. So if you're asking me why you should care about a loser, I can't answer that, but I can tell you that this loser cares about you more than he's cared about anything in his entire disappointing life, and that's gotta count for something, even if it doesn't count for enough." Stallone stops talking, looks back down at his hands. The silence returns, heavier now, loaded with everything that was just said, everything that wasn't said, all the pain and hope and desperation that lives in the space between words. Martin sits frozen. His coffee mug hangs in midair, forgotten. His mouth is slightly open. His eyes are wet. He's not thinking about the audition anymore. He's not thinking about the role, or the movie, or his career. He's thinking about his own life, his own failures, his own moments of feeling like a loser, his own desperate attempts to prove he matters. 4 minutes have passed. Stallone used 4 of his 7 minutes. Martin should let him continue, should see what else he can do, should test his range. But Martin can't watch anymore, can't handle what he's witnessing. Martin holds up his hand, says, "Stop." Stallone looks up, thinks he failed, thinks Martin is ending it early because it was terrible, thinks this is rejection. Again, always rejection. But Martin's face isn't showing rejection, it's showing something else. Shock, recognition, respect, maybe fear. Fear of how much truth just got spoken in a small room in Century City on a Wednesday afternoon. Martin says quietly, "Stop, just stop. You got the part." Stallone blinks, doesn't understand. "What?" Martin says louder, "You got the part. Jesus Christ, who are you?" Stallone doesn't know how to answer that, doesn't know if it's a real question or a rhetorical one. Martin stands up, paces, runs his hand through his hair, looks at Stallone like he's seeing something impossible, says, "That wasn't acting. That was, I don't know what that was. But it wasn't acting. Where did that come from?" Stallone says simply, "My life." Martin nods, keeps nodding, sits back down, looks at the headshot again, sees it differently now, says, "The face, the voice." This says, "The face, the voice, the everything. I thought you were wrong for this. Thought you were too rough, too unconventional, too much. But you're not wrong. You're exactly right. You are this character. And I don't know if that's beautiful or tragic." Stallone says, "Both." Martin laughs, real laugh this time, not cruel, amazed. He says, "I've been casting this role for 3 months, seeing 200 actors, good actors, professional actors, trained actors, and none of them made me feel anything. They performed, they hit their marks, they said the lines the way they thought I wanted to hear them. But you just destroyed me in 4 minutes with something you made up on the spot." "How?" Stallone says, "Because I didn't make it up. I just remembered." Martin looks at Stallone for a long moment, then says, "The movie shoots in 6 weeks. Budget is tiny. You'll make scale, maybe $2,000 total, but it's a lead role, real screen time, real chance to show what you can do. You interested?" Stallone says, "Yes." Martin extends his hand. They shake. Martin says, "Welcome to the Lords of Flatbush. You're going to be great in this." Stallone nods, stands, walks to the door. Before he leaves, Martin calls out, "Hey Stallone, that thing you said about being great at showing up, that's not nothing. That might be everything." Stallone turns, looks at Martin, says, "I hope you're right." He walks out, takes the elevator down 9 floors, walks out into the Los Angeles afternoon. The sun is brutal. The air smells like exhaust and possibility. He has $63 in his bank account. He's 3 weeks behind on rent. He hasn't eaten today, but he has a job, a real acting job, a lead role, and more than that, he has proof that the years of rejection weren't about talent, weren't about ability, were just about finding the right person to see what he actually had to offer. Martin saw it in 4 minutes. 4 minutes was enough. The movie shoots. Stallone pours everything into it. The performance is raw, honest, completely unpolished in the best way. The film gets limited release. Critics notice Stallone, not the movie, Stallone. They write about his intensity, his authenticity, his unconventional presence. The film doesn't make money, but Stallone gets noticed. More importantly, Martin keeps the audition tape 40 years later, he still has it, transfers it to digital, watches it sometimes, when he needs to remember why he got into this business, when he needs to remember what real performance looks like, what happens when an actor stops trying to be good and just starts being true. In 2015, Martin is teaching a masterclass at AFI. He shows the audition tape to his students. 7 minutes of Sylvester Stallone, making a room full of film students completely silent. When it ends, nobody speaks for a full minute. Finally, a student asks, "Was that really improvised?" Martin says, "Every word." Another student asks, "How did he do that?" Martin says, "He stopped acting and started remembering." That's the secret. The best performances aren't performances, they're confessions. After the class, Martin sends the tape to Stallone with a note. "I've kept this for 40 years. Thought you should have it. This is the moment I knew you were special. Not when Rocky came out, not when you got famous. This moment, when you were nobody, and you showed me everything. Thank you for that gift." Stallone watches the tape, sees himself at 28, desperate, hungry, unpolished, raw. He barely remembers that audition, barely remembers Martin. So much has happened since then, so many bigger moments, so many more important career milestones. But watching it now, watching that young, desperate version of himself make a casting director cry with 4 minutes of improvised monologue, Stallone understands something he didn't understand then. He wasn't acting in that audition. He was surviving, was turning his pain into performance, because performance was the only language he knew, was proving that being a loser doesn't mean being worthless, means being human, means still trying even when trying seems pointless. That's what Rocky would become. That's what every underdog character Stallone ever played would echo. Not triumph, not victory, just the refusal to stop showing up, the refusal to let rejection be the final word, the refusal to believe that loser is a permanent condition rather than a temporary circumstance. 7 minutes in a casting office in 1975. 4 minutes of actual performance. One career changed. One life validated. One proof that sometimes the greatest art comes from the deepest pain, and the most powerful performances happen when you forget you're performing and just start telling the truth. That audition didn't just get Stallone a job. It taught him what he was capable of. Taught him that his life, all the struggle, all the rejection, all the pain, wasn't wasted, was material, was fuel, was the exact thing that would make him different from every other actor trying to make it in Hollywood. Martin was right. Being great at showing up isn't nothing. It's everything. What are you great at showing up for? What pain are you carrying that could become art? What truth are you afraid to speak that might be exactly what someone needs to hear? Because sometimes 7 minutes is enough. 4 minutes is enough. One moment of brutal honesty is enough to change everything. You just have to stop performing and start remembering. Stop trying to be what they want and start being what you are. That's the real audition. Not for a role, for yourself. And Sylvester Stallone passed it in a small room on a Wednesday afternoon when he had nothing to lose and everything to prove. 7 minutes. That's all it took. That's all it ever takes. When the truth finally gets spoken,